Hello, this is Grant, one half of the Herdsman, coming to you today to talk to you about one of my favorite anime. Yes, that's right, Full Metal Alchemist from 2003. Okay, so this episode, which is episode you not keeping count, um, this is another one of those pivotal episodes because, like most pivotal episodes, it introduced a new main character. That main character is Lieutenant Colonel Mays Hughes. And for those of you who are getting annoyed by the military names, you kind of got to get used to them because they're just going to keep getting more complicated. Um, this is one of my favorite characters in the show, especially this show, because there are certainly parts in the 2009 version that you like the character, but you see, he loves talking about his family. He never shuts up, to the extreme annoyance of all of his superiors and co-workers. But they really take it to the next level in this version of the show. So this is the first time you see him. He is a military man who just up about his family. It's in this episode that the brothers are trying to get to the capital city, which they just call it Central, which is, it's kind of unimaginative for me. I mean, this is a beautiful world. It's a very inventive world, but Central just doesn't strike me as that creative. But anyway, as they're going on this journey there, they are on a train ride, and the train gets hijacked by, I think the term is radicals, or whatever it is, like people who are rebelling against the government. So I'm not sure if it's rebels necessarily, but people who used to be part of the military and then rebelled against the entire country. And yeah, this is a really good episode because it once again shows you the inherent and the inherent arrogance of Edward as a character, because this is a character who he really does care for people. He really does. He is very selfless. He put himself in harm's way to help people weaker than himself. But he's also the type of guy that will mold his weapons to look like him. He, for instance, he transforms a door so that there's a loudspeaker that he can intimidate the enemies with. And the loudspeaker has his exact hairstyle, even kind of a similar face. So you can tell he's just very egotistical, and it's really funny. Plus, there's just some great swashbuckling action to this episode. Of them going to the end of this train to fight the lead rebel, who he's serviceable. This lead rebel as a villain. I mean, he's not meant to be that good of a villain like the first episode. He's kind of just meant to be a dilemma for that particular episode, but he's okay. It's really actually the journey of them getting to him which is the most fun, because Al, who is in this suit of armor, is constantly just trying to tell the people who have guns, stop shooting, you're gonna shoot yourselves, but they will not learn this lesson, and it's just hilarious. There is some action where Edward is leaning over the side of the train. He's on the outside of a moving train, and he's leaning over a window, and he's upside down, and he just, like, briefly looks at them and does, and then his, like, head goes, like, that fast. Very, very zany, very, what I've said before, Looney Tunes. Very Looney Tunes. That's a thing that I'm really starting to notice. There's a lot more of that in this one than the other one. The other one The other show from 2009, it had its fair share of comedy, but I'm beginning to realize how much zaniness, how much grit is in this show. And that's one of the great things, honestly, about this show and the other, is you can watch these dozens of times and you will still find something new each time. One thing that I really like about this particular episode is the very end. There's this character that you've seen little bits of him before, but you really don't get a sense of his menace until you see him in this episode, and that is Colonel Roy Mustang. He is also called the Flame Alchemist throughout the course of this series, and you get a real sense of how in control of the situation he is in this, because in episodes later and in episodes prior and in the other show, he comes off as just a bit unhinged, just a bit unrestrained, which it kind of work with his aspirations. I mean, his aspirations are that he'll eventually be a king, that he'll eventually rise even higher in the ranks, which that makes a lot more sense in this episode than it does in later episodes, because in this episode, he has such control of his power. He has the ability to basically cause spontaneous combustion, to light things on fire with the snap of his fingers. And that can be to any degree. It is always pinpoint accuracy, but it can be to any degree of intensity, and he was able to burn a guy without completely scarring him for life, able to debilitate him, and he was just, you could tell he was in complete control of the situation, almost like James Bond, and you never really see that in the series, and that's like the only thing. I love that aspect. I just wish it could have carried on later into the series, because it's a really good aspect. It makes it distinguish itself from the other series, and yeah, it's this great little part. I just wish, honestly, they could have carried it on. And that is all for today. So until next time, don't be afraid to join the herd. Yeah, herd.